once you are confirmed that it has a suitable resonance behavior, you can find it out. Now, in doing so, I hope to bring you or make you aware about this particular paper, also published in 2009 by Trevor Spott. At that time, he was the editor-in-chief of the IEEE Transactions and Antennas and Propagation. Just the previous year, we got one antenna designer's note where we put in a new design formula for certain typical class of antenna systems. And in fact, in most of the cases, I also did a mistake. I put up long before, at least some 18 years before, when I first plotted the S11 dB versus frequency, it was nicely written return loss. And the y-axis was from 0 and minus 10, minus 20, minus 30. Can loss be negative? That point has been put up here. It is actually the S11 dB that you are plotting. It's not return loss. So many of the papers, and in fact it has got published also in Transactions. It is actually one case which is very well called by Professor Bird as the misuse of return loss. I hope that you also won't follow this kind of a mistake. It's just we are not aware of that, so that kind of a mistake comes up. It's actually the S11 dB what you have plotted. If you had plotted the return loss, you just flip the graph, you make it from 0 to 30. The loss is more or loss is less, you can plot it. So obviously at the resonance frequency, the return power should be less. That's what is implied by, and you can do it. For multiband, you can see that whether that the return of power is less for two different frequencies. And for a very wide band, you can check it for a wide range of frequencies. But how you express the bandwidth, some cases it is percentage bandwidth, and in some cases it is fractional bandwidth. So for very wide band systems, we generally refer to fractional bandwidth. So this from the one of the point that we have clarified so far as understanding the impedance characteristics and the reflection coefficient, input reflection coefficient, and using the information to determine what is the resonance frequency, what is the bandwidth. So before we further move on to integrate the radiation characteristics also and the field characteristics also, one important junction is to classify the different regions of the antenna, which I hope you know. It's a textbook representation of the things. Very close to it, it's a reactive near field, Fresnel region, which comes between the reactive near field and the far field, and the Fraunhofer, the far field region, which is greater than 2 L square by lambda, where L is the largest dimension of this antenna system that we are considering. But keep in mind that particular information that we discussed, that it's not only the acceleration and deceleration of charges which create radiation, but how that translates, acceleration, deceleration, translates into the reactive near fields. That reactive near field, how it can get it more favorable to make the fields propagate. So that's very important. And the physics of that radiation, you can revisit the paper of Sands and then understand it for a Hertzian dipole. You can extrapolate and get your understanding for any other kind of radiating systems. So whenever you check that, you can have such kind of setups. I chose to put a calibrated horn antenna with a network analyzer, because network analyzers, I think most of the institutes are running after purchasing them. Another aspect is you can have your own data acquisition softwares. You need not purchase them also. Now, where to place them? Basically, you can have an anechoic chamber if you are really having a lot of funds, or you can go to the terrace, go for an open antenna test range systems, and you can purchase long cables. What we have done here, you purchase long RF cables which can connect the transmitting and the receiving systems with the test and measurement instruments which are housed in these ambient temperature regions in your lab. But you need to have good RF cables for that. Coaxial cables are available. You can easily get them to perform this. So in an open antenna test range system, so it's actually, there are no scatterers, there are no reflectors, so therefore it is easy for you to get a kind of a atmosphere which is quite close to that of an anechoic chamber. But if you have a flavor of designing absorbers, then I hope you can do that by limited purchase of absorbers and set up a small unit where the transmitter and the receiver side, you know where from the signals will be coming as a thoughtful RF engineer, and put up the absorbers in that region, and you can get the suitable information on the radiation characteristics. So obviously these are some typical bookish understanding that what is the main lobe, a back lobe, then side lobes, then front to back ratio, half power beam width, what is the first null beam width. So all this information you can derive from this three-dimensional radiation pattern, or you can go for a polar plot. In 2D also you can go for a rectangular plot also. From there also you can compute it. Then another aspect is about the different cut planes of radiation pattern. When you want the antenna systems to radiate, you also want that how it radiates, in which direction. Maybe the antenna is very good radiator in a particular direction, in a particular plane. It may not be a good radiator in the other plane. But if we take the typical horn antenna, the electric fields, you know the electric fields from the second figure from the top. So the electric field, how it propagates. So the pattern, if you measure in this plane which contains the electric field, gives you the E-plane pattern. And you know how the magnetic fields are oriented in a waveguide. So the plane which contains the magnetic field, and you try to find what is the radiation pattern in this plane, is which it gives you the H-plane pattern. There is a new trend of multiplexing informations in communication system, multiplexing E-field and H-plane information. So E-field and H-plane, E-plane and E-plane multiplexing, or E-field, H-field multiplexing is a you will find very limited paper, particularly in communication, IEEE communication letters. You'll find very, very few papers. In fact, one of the paper is there by science only, where E-plane and H-plane multiplexing has been done. So it's a very interesting domain where you can use both the plane for transmitting two different sets of information without interference of one another. Then again, some typical textbook representation of where do you find, because obviously when you go for such kind of a three-dimensional coordinate geometry, and this, so obviously in a given direction, so what's the solid angle, so what will be the energy transmitted. So there are some information which you can easily pick up, provided you have a good flavor of your class 12 solid geometry. So that's an information on solid geometry which you can just invoke here and get that calculations. And you can also know from your 4th sem or 3rd sem classes on electromagnetic engineering how to find a Poynting vector, and you can find what is the radiation intensity. What is mainly important to us is the two terms, directivity and gain. If one was there, then what was the need for the other? The directivity, in a simple sense, it's the 4 pi u theta phi radiation density by the P rad, the radiated power. And for antenna gain, we call it 4 pi u theta phi by P in. Just put these two equations side by side, P rad and P in. So there are other representations also for certain high directive antennas. For parabolic reflectors, you can take the half power beamwidth from the theta plane and phi plane and you can get it. But typically, if you take these two relationship, it is quite hard for during most of the, when you are teaching also, when you are trying to understand an antenna subsystem. If you look at these two, just I would like to ask you, any one of you can take up this question. Out of gain and directivity, which is easy for you to measure, or where there is less uncertainty in measurement? Which parameters is less uncertain to measure and why? Anyone? Can anybody? Was my question clear? The question is hard, but what is the answer? Out of gain and directivity, which parameters you can measure, which of these two parameters you can measure with less uncertainty and why? Means where in the chat? Okay. So they measure, so some means how many? Maximum. They can also switch on their microphone and then speak up also if they have some more discussions. No problem. I may just overshoot the time. If whenever you feel bored, then you can just tell me that, okay, you end up with your final slide. Yeah, then they can tell why they have told directivity or why gain. Let us go back to the previous. Directivity is u theta phi, 4 pi is, okay, that calculations come from, because everything in spherical symmetry we take, so therefore we have to bring such that it gets cancelled out. So P rad, and here it is P in. Just take in very simple thought that when you measure directivity, the radiated power. Yes, anybody was telling? Please tell.
Sir, gain can be measured with respect to some isotropic radiator or some antenna, but that, because it is a passive component.
Yes, your thoughts are okay.
And directivity where power radiated with respect to certain antenna can be measured.
Fine.
Yes, sir. That's what my analogy.
Okay. Let us put it this way, that if you try to find, decide to measure directivity and you want to measure P rad, that's the radiated power. First thing is that you have to be beyond the far field region. That's fine. To measure the directivity of the destination antenna system, it depends on, the radiated power depends on whether you are at a distance of 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. Obviously, basic common sense tells that the radiated power will not be the same. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
The power that you receive with the power meter, will it be same at different, how much radiated power was received? Whatever kind of antenna you take, a very directive antenna you take for measuring, you design, we have a very wide band horn, you generally, reached waveguide horn is taken for such kind of measurements in your lab also. But you cannot measure the radiated power because it changes at different distances and you cannot, it is uncertain. Somewhere you move to one place, there were a lot of trees. You move to another place, there were a lot of vehicles standing, so you cannot measure. At 2 kilometer distance also, at different points, there may be different. But you cannot precisely measure the radiated power. There is a lot of uncertainty in measurement. But you can confidently tell that what was the input power given to the antenna. Right? Or any contest in this?
Yes, yes.
Obviously, we know from the measuring instrument that how much input power was given to the antenna system. So in